take those steps to make that couple feel secure.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Today we have Desiree Dent from Dejanae Events coming on to chat with us about essentially everything that we're all going through right now. If you saw any of our stories most recently about just, obviously weddings themselves, live events are being rescheduled. Believe it was about 32 billion already has been lost in the wedding industry due to the rescheduling and pandemic issues with COVID. And so obviously there's a lot of questions as to what we should do, how we should do it, when. And so Desiree is going to be coming on to chat a little bit more about some of the best practices when it comes to, hey there, Flower Village Roses. She's going to be talking with us about some of the best practices when it comes to your client communication during COVID. And I think it's really important because really understanding how you should best be communicating with your clients is important. One, for just the pure reason of communication, but also because when you're talking about your customer experience journey, every point, including the communication, is a really important aspect in terms of what they're going through, how they're perceiving what you're doing and why, and how that's affecting everything else that they're going through and what they think about your service. So we are going to add in Desiree. Here we go. And just to warn you guys, Desiree makes me laugh a lot. And she always ends up doing things like saying that she's running off to get married and stuff, right?
Yes. I'm like, what did I come into? Hey, Maggie.
No, I was just saying how the last time that you were on, it was like something. So just to warn you guys, Desiree talks about the most. She'll say things like, yeah, and then she's gonna run off to get married somewhere. So just in case,
Right. I was getting engaged.
Oh, getting engaged. Right.
I'm really not, but that was the joke.
So how was the engagement? Were you surprised?
Totally. I had no clue that, I didn't even know him, but oh my God, how are you, Megan?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. Happy Thursday.
I know. Happy Thursday. You have had so many things going on in your life recently. It's like
yes.
One after another. Your daughter just graduated. She had prom, which the pictures were stunning. I was like,
thank you.
Sick. Absolutely sick. And it was like, this is a styled shoot. Nope. It's her daughter's prom. Because that's how Desiree does it.
That's how a planner does it. Yes. I had to make it amazing. Her, along with the entire class of 2020, lost so much this year. So I just had to really make it as wonderful as possible. So yeah, 2 photo shoots. We actually had 2 photo shoots.
I saw that. I loved both. Yeah. I don't think I could have chosen one or the other. They were both awesome. I loved both those dresses.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's so great. And now, so I saw that you also started another company, because 2 companies is already, that's not enough. You need
that's not enough. Not enough. Yes, I started micro weddings in April.
And so tell me about micro weddings, because it's at micro weddings, or is it micro underscore weddings?
It's micro underscore wedding. Don't add the S, because that was already taken. But basically, towards the latter part of April, I started micro weddings is what I call it, by Dejanae Events, simply because for my business to evolve during COVID, I needed to be able to market to the COVID client, is now what I'm calling this person. Because here in Illinois, like many other states, we can't, at that time in April, couldn't even have 10. Wow. It opened up April 29th for us to be allowed to have 10 in an event. And so I thought it would be wonderful to be able to offer these couples who still wanted to have something of, some type of celebratory event, their wedding, whatever it may have been this year, to be able to give them that opportunity and not have to run around and search. So with micro wedding, it's literally, I pulled together my best vendor team possible, and literally they just have to show up. Well, they have to pick their wedding colors and then show up. And
Nice.
the officiant will handle everything. I would be marrying them because I'm an officiant. So that's the fourth thing I do. Then we have floral. We have the DJ providing audio as well as a playlist. There'll be a cake cutting. So just keeping it really nice, but it's only for 2 hours. And at that time, it was up for 12 that could actually be in attendance, including the couple. But now we're at 50. So I'm still keeping it micro weddings, but I've added that you can add additional people to the package.
That's awesome. That's so great. And it's so important because, I mean, being able to really meet couples where they're at right now. And yes, a lot of people are rescheduling, but they still want to do something.
Yes.
And so being able to help them celebrate, obviously in a new and different way, is important because they kind of try to wing it and do it themselves, and they're not happy, they're stressed. It's just a very frustrating point for them. That's the last thing anybody wants. So
yeah, and trying to take away the stress. We're all stressed right now, trying to figure it out day to day. So now we want to throw a wedding in the middle of this. Yeah, let me help you get through it. And I know, not only myself, but many planners across the United States, that was what we had to start thinking about, how to scale back and keep it cost effective for couples, because the day of, honestly, Megan, the day of that luxury wedding, we don't know how that's going to look in the future because there are so many couples who are, financially challenged right now. They're pitching pennies just day to day. So how do we have that big, fabulous wedding that we have envisioned, but we still love one another? So we still want to have that moment with those immediate family and friends.
that's so good and so important because it's really about understanding what they're going through right now to be able to give them the right type of service. Because everyone's like, oh, I'll just do virtual services, or oh, I'll just do a microwave, or oh, whatever. But if you don't really think about all they're going to need, like you were saying, it's not a service for them. It's actually more frustration because then they have to plan it all. They have to figure out everything they want. But so like what you're doing, it's all done for them. They can just choose their colors and show up, and they're good to go.
That's it. Timeline is provided. Everything they want. I just literally need to know your colors so that we can make the bouquet match. That's about it. And also add a little color to the cake, or the floral arrangement that we'll have on the table for the guests. But that's really all I need.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's so good. And so how are things? I mean, it's seriously crazy out there. Like, I mean, Dallas is going crazy. Florida, California,
Arizona.
I mean, how are you guys doing in Illinois?
Miraculously, our numbers are going down daily.
Good.
The mayor spoke today in Chicago here, and literally there are 200 cases or less, is what the not estimate, but what has been projected over the last, I want to say, probably week or so. So the numbers are definitely going down because we were a hot spot for about 2 months, and we sheltered in place. I believe if we weren't the longest state, we were the second. Probably New York was the longest in sheltering. Right. So we're probably number 2 on that, and I truly am thankful for what we did here, although very frustrating. It worked from what we can see right now, but we're in the summer months, and people are, as you see in photographs and on the news, people are out doing what they want, and masks aren't as prevalent as they should be. So it's hopefully those numbers won't change. We'll know in, I guess, in the next few weeks to a month. But right now we're in phase 4, and we'll sit here until there's a vaccination. So 50 events or less, I'm not 50 events or less, but 50 in the guest count or less is what is for indoors. And then outdoors, it's 100 or less.
Okay. Okay. And for your outdoor ceremonies, do you have to socially distance the chairs, or
Yes,
can every,
there
was
still
it
would have to be social distancing. The guests have to wear masks. And that is the requirement. Now, there's a lot of discussion here. Venues, especially in the suburbs, are kind of doing what they want in certain respects. The masks are the challenge, keeping them on because, I mean, technically, if you aren't at your table with your guest or that group, when you leave that table, you should put a mask on to go to the
right?
restroom, to go visit another person. If there's no dance floor, but if there were, you should have had a mask on. Just to move around, you should have a mask on, but people are not following that. It's really hard to be dressed up, come to a celebratory event and keep your face covered,
Yeah.
but even outdoors, it's even worse because we're, 95 degrees or hotter here right now. So, we'll see. I'm hopeful though that people will continue, and those that see people are not following the rules, as I call them, that they will be respectful and mention it to them and say, hey, come on, we're in this together. Let's do this. This is only for a short period of time if we follow directions.
So now, I mean, obviously, I always feel bad for planners because it's like, yes, you're the planner, but you're also like the kind of like, I call it like the junk drawer of everything else. They're like, oh yeah, the planner can do it. Oh yeah, give it to the
Yeah,
planner. You know,
I like that.
it's like anything that's like, I really don't know whose responsibility, but the planner can do that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, have you found it to be like your responsibility to tell people like to put their mask on or like to sanitize their hands or like what the rules are or anything like that?
That would probably fall under my umbrella. I like that, Megan. You called us the junk drawer. I've got to hashtag that. Because again, like we say, we never know what's going to happen in our conversations.
I
Um,
know.
but it's great. I love that. That might be my next live next week, the junk drawer. I like that a lot. But to answer your question, I feel that it will be my responsibility, my team's responsibility in certain respects. I would also hope and want to partner with the venue in having those conversations with guests who are not, following protocol when it comes to the masks, because it can get a little messy. It can get a little sketchy. You have to be living under a rock right now if you are not aware what's going on in the world. Okay. I can't even just say the US, in the world.
Yeah.
COVID-19 is here. Okay. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere immediately either. So I would hope, if a guest is coming to celebrate with a couple on their special day, that if I say, hey, don't forget to put your mask on, or hey, do you need a mask? I have one here, or sanitize before you come in. Like, we're very respectful in our tone and our diction. So hopefully they would, follow the direction of myself, my team, the venue manager, or the venue personnel that's there also, wanting to make sure that everyone stays safe in the environment.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's one of those things like there's been a lot of talk about waivers, having people sign waivers, having people's temperature checked before they come in, all sorts of different kind of precautions. Have you been implementing any of those, or have you seen some of those? Have there been any pushback?
Not that I'm aware of right now as far as pushback. The temperature checks, no, haven't seen that implemented. Me personally, no, I have not. Even with a wedding coming up, it's not something that has been suggested. Now, waivers, somewhat, I believe with a waiver, and this is just my stance on it, is that hopefully a person would not come into the environment that is ill. Okay. But I have to protect myself, my company, my team. I would love for guests to sign a waiver. That's just my personal opinion, but it's something that would have to be discussed with the couple, and they would have to agree upon it. And you might get some pushback in that respect, simply because you're now once again putting such a negative thought into someone's mind who is literally going to an event to celebrate. So I personally would like it. Again, the couple has to agree, but having sanitizer, having masks on site, they become favors now. Sanitizer bottles have become favors now. And just seriously, and just making sure that the floor plan, rather indoor or outdoor, is sufficient for with that 6 feet social distancing, I believe would be okay. And then definitely, Megan, making sure people keep their masks on. That's key for me. I don't want to be near anyone who does not have a mask on. I'm sure you don't either. I don't want to go to the store if you don't have a mask on. So I know I don't want to be at an event without one.
Well, I mean, in New York, it's state law. Like if you are in public, you have to have a mask on, just period.
Yes, here
And
too.
just the way it is. And
Mhm.
we don't even have indoor dining for New York City. There
Okay.
is like restricted indoor dining, like at like I think it's a 50%
Mhm.
capacity in other areas outside of New York City. But I mean, it's one of those things that like it seems like a lot of the kind of outbursts of cases, the influx has really come from people who are like, they're going to a bar and they're going to an
Yes.
restaurant, they're going to a party. And it's like, what do people do when they're drinking? Usually they start to raise the volume of their voice, meaning they're projecting
Hmm.
COVID and whatever
Yeah.
else they're doing, and on top of that, there's no, so like, it's one of those things like if it's hard enough to socially distance yourself when you're sober.
Hmm.
So what happens? It's like generally if you're drunk, you can't walk a straight line. So how are you going to be able to manage to tell what 6 feet away is?
Exactly. And, for me, this is my business, this is my livelihood. So don't get me wrong. I want weddings and events to come back strong, but I rather take this summer off and be safe
Yeah.
and let us come up with a pharmaceutical cocktail, as I call it, that can help, the cure of COVID, or if it's a vaccination. I'd rather take 2020 off and make sure those things happen for the safety of everyone involved versus rushing into a celebratory event. And then we see, like we've seen in the news in some other states, where now someone has it and has passed it to the guests, or a vendor is now at home and they were in that environment, and so they're worried they've got to quarantine for 14 days and lose business and things like that. It's just it's really challenging right now. And I would want to see us as an industry to still do all we can with our clients, keep them uplifted, keep them thinking about their celebrations, because most, if have moved to 2021, but we still do have those that are set on making it happen in 2020. So for us as professionals, industry leaders, as pros, we have to educate them.
Yeah.
And if they trust us to sign the contract and send the retainer, then please trust us when we say, hey, we got to do this for the safety of not only you, but for the guests that you love so much, and for the vendor team that you put together. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so what do you find to be the best ways of communicating kind of all of that? Because I mean, because couples are part of the general public, there
Yes.
are who are like, yeah, whatever. And then there who are like, oh my goodness, I don't even want to like I don't even want to be close to anyone. Like I don't want you, like if it's even if it's contactless, they're like, I don't know where you've been, that makes me nervous. I'm just gonna do like a Zoom wedding and
Hmm.
it's gonna be the two of us and the officiant over Zoom, and because they are so afraid of
Hmm.
potentially getting COVID. So how do you think it's best to communicate with them?
Well,
One,
initially,
but also too to give them information.
I would say initially, let me say this, at this point with people moving weddings, you should have already been on the phone or had some communication with your couples. Okay. So if you're just starting that process, get on the phone quick. But if they've already changed the date and you've sent that addendum to them, with the date change and all of that, communicating from that point forward, for one, put everything in email. I'm a huge emailer because I want to make sure that I have everything, and then I can go back and check. Did I forget something? Anything of that nature. But let them know first and foremost your procedures of how you are going to be dealing with health and safety within your company. And what I mean by that is if you are feeling inclined to take personal one-on-one meetings or two-on-one meetings, whatever it may be, let them know how your space is going to be sanitized, how it's going to be set up. I know that many professionals are doing that, so why wouldn't you follow that lead? Take those steps to make that couple feel secure. If that's not what you feel comfortable with or them, then of course having a Zoom account, a Google Meet account, whatever it is, something that you can do virtually, have the conversation that way. I'm also big on giving couples homework because I want to keep them into the planning process. I want to keep them doing something. I want to keep them motivated and excited. So homework for me is a big thing. That's probably also because I'm an educator. But hey, give me your wedding party list. Here's some inspirational photos. Tell me what you think. Maybe we could do this for your wedding. I want to over communicate with couples right now versus this amount of communication wasn't in my contract, so I'm not going to do that. That's not me. I'd rather be in the know than to have something, sprung upon me later on down the line. So definitely being as communicative as possible and kind of following their trajectory. I am really big, as I said, on email, and I want my couples to be that way as well. But if they've become an Instagram DM sender or a Facebook DM sender or a text message person, I'm just going to roll with it right now, to make them feel comfortable. Because for me, although I'm not really engaged, I could only imagine being engaged and having to go through this. I would be mortified. And I would want someone to take the lead and help me through this emotional process. And so if you've got to text me, if you've got to DM me, if you got to email me, call, whatever, I feel as though we as professionals should be there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you were saying. I mean, really meeting them because again, you don't know what they're going through. I mean, maybe they had a family member that passed from COVID or has been in the hospital, or maybe, I mean, there's a myriad of different things going on right now that I think it's important as a professional to be considerate of who your clients are and the fact that they're human. Like,
exactly,
they might be dealing with things that, literally going to their email every day is too overwhelming. So they don't,
right.
And those are things that, like you said, like whether it's a DM over Instagram or a text message or even like a phone call, being able to help communicate, I think is so important. And also you can always say like, I just wanted to let you know, I'm going to send you an email that's going to just recap everything, just so you know, it's not important for you to reply to it right now, but just so that you have it in one place. Like you can say things like that too, so that they understand, even if like email is your preferred communication during this time, you're doing above and beyond what was quote unquote agreed upon in terms of.
And I think, we as professionals right now, we're emotional because of what's going on with our businesses. They're emotional, just as you said. We have no clue sometimes what's going on in their families. What's going on in their everyday life, what's going on in their work environment, which may have changed completely. Yeah. And so I think we have to really meet them where they are. And if it just means you doing a little extra, what's wrong with that? I just there's so many people that I have had the opportunity to speak with, and I'm in a lot of groups on Facebook, and I see where people just don't want to do anything extra. And for me, maybe it's just my heart, maybe it's my love for this industry and the love that I feel should be projected onto someone who's going through probably something similar, if not the same thing as me. I have no problem doing a little extra. I mean, what is an extra 5-minute phone call?
No, yeah.
What's the extra cost in you honestly sending and checking an email or a digital card that costs nothing?
Right.
Like, those are the kind of things that these couples are going to remember. And when this new normal truly progresses, they're going to remember this. And they're going to say, hey, I remember that planner. I remember that photographer who took the time to do this little extra thing for me. And when they have their friends who are getting married or having a celebration, and say, hey, you need to call her. You need to call him.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I want. I want the good review.
And I think, I mean, first of all, if anyone doesn't know, Desiree is the queen of reviews, the absolute queen of reviews. And you totally need to DM her and ask her about all of her tips and tricks about reviews, because it's amazing.
I welcome it.
But also just in terms of, you know, again, kind of the why of your business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the why in terms of why you chose weddings. Why did you choose special events? Why did you choose this kind of industry versus something else? And that why should be because you enjoy being a part of someone's wedding day. If you don't, like, you should not be in weddings in the first place. This is not
at all.
Oh, that cost me an extra 5 minutes, so that's going to be like, that's not what this is about. This is literally about helping people on one of the most important, but also one of the most stressful days. It's like, I would joke, it's like you're in a hostage crisis situation every time you go to work. It's
exactly.
Like, you know, this is, you got to be able to be like, your tank has to be full, and you really have to be operating out of the place where it's like, you want to help. And if that's not you, then you should think about something.
That well stated, Megan. Like, seriously, if you don't have a love for this industry, if you don't have a love for weddings and events, why are you putting yourself through this? And for those watching, me nor Megan are not being negative towards the industry. Let me put that one out there. All we're saying is that you've got to have a love for it, because you are walking into a volatile situation, and they're all different.
Yeah.
Every weekend or every other weekend, however often you're working, it's always different. I don't care how perfect you make that timeline. There's something that's going to happen. Okay. And you've got to love it enough to push through and to still make it as best as possible, you know, under your contractual obligations, but also just as a business professional to give them the best service, you know, that you possibly can during their event. And we still need to be like that, even behind the scenes here in our homes or locked away in our offices. We or behind a computer screen, we still need to be that same type of professional.
Absolutely. And I mean, one of the things that I love, so if you're not friends with Desiree on Facebook, you don't see all of her super sweet, positive, like, little blurbs, and it's so great, because
my blessings
is like, she's like spouting blessings here and there, and it's like, ooh, I want a blessing, you know. It's like everybody gets blessings on Facebook if you're friends with Desiree, which I think is so fantastic. But it is, because it's like, why would you want to make yourself miserable and then make somebody else miserable on their wedding day? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, and to be just like what you said, we're not saying like, you know, anything bad about the industry itself. We're just saying that it's not for everyone, and that's okay. Not everyone's going to be an accountant. Not everyone's going to be a doctor. Not everyone's going to be a lawyer, you know, and that's okay. Like, if you're a photographer, you don't have to be a wedding photographer. There's a ton of other you can do as a photographer, you know, like there are different aspects of what you do, and understanding that if the wedding industry is not your thing, that's okay. Like,
right.
No one's saying have to be miserable.
No, not at all. And I mean, right now it's really challenging. And so you have to now dig even deeper.
Yeah.
You know, because I've received messages and phone calls, you know, couples are crying, they're trying to figure it out. And that emotional aspect and things that they're going through, that weighs heavy on me. That would weigh heavy on any professional. And so like right now, it's even more intense, you know, dealing with a lot of couples right now. You have to think about it too, Megan. A lot of couples right now may have already gotten married, or would have gotten married, I should say,
Yeah.
in 2020, but now they had to move the date to 21. And think about that emotionally. You know, you started planning in 19, and then now we're here in 20, and we couldn't have it. And now we got to move to next year. And that emotional toll right there, if you can't deal with those types of conversations and you have no feelings in regards to those conversations, why are you really doing this? Because no, none of us have ever dealt with this before. We're all trying to figure it out. Okay, so that's number one. But in figuring it out, you still have to be respectful. You
Mm-hmm.
still have to stay engaged with couples. You still have to communicate. And I say couples, but also with our vendor teams.
Yeah.
You know, because they're going through probably the same exact thing we're going through, or different level of it. They see it all as just like we do. And we want to stay engaged with them as well. Check in on them, make sure that they're doing okay, or they might need a little inspiration or a little push as we try to navigate this COVID client, this new normal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what would you say like is really been the most kind of important thing that you've been doing lately to kind of help your couples besides checking in and everything like that? Are you doing anything like different or special or unique that's kind of giving them extra life?
Right now for me, it's really checking in and staying engaged. Sending out little e-cards. I think that's for me, that I'm just a quote person.
That is so
That's
you.
just
Like
me. That's so me.
honestly, that's you need an e-card business because
I
Desiree
need to
like
add that.
see, there we go. We need Desiree e-card business. And
There we go. New business, Megan. By the
I
next time
know.
we do this again, I'll have it.
Well, you already have like however many cards like the sayings because you can basically
Yeah,
just take them off your Facebook and be like, slap that one on a
have
card,
it on a
slap that one
card.
on a card. There we go.
There you go. And seriously,
Done.
that's what I'm doing. But just, I mean, just sending encouragement and staying engaged, like with my vendors, because I'm so close with many of them. We text all the time, or we send funny memes or whatever. But you know, just trying to add some laughter to the day. But then when it comes to the couple, still remaining, like I said, professional. But for me, checking in is, I don't know what happened.
That's okay.
Checking in is huge, but also sending, you know, like the little e-cards or whatever. I have not personally taken any face-to-face meetings since we have been shelter in place, and I'm still doing everything video, but it's pretty much works out the same.
Yeah.
I, you know, send obviously whatever I have to discuss in advance to them, and it runs just like a well-oiled machine. We're just not face to face with one another.
And I think, I mean, especially right now, I don't know any couples that would be like, no, I don't want to do that. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of couples, one, they're used to it. It's for far enough along kind of in this pandemic that they're used to doing, whether it's a FaceTime, a Zoom call, you know, it's not out of the ordinary.
Right.
And so it's one of those things that like when you're face to face with someone and it's like you don't do things like shake hands or give a hug or like get close to them or you have a mask on, it starts to be like they can't pick up on your expressions, they can't pick up
Yeah.
on social cues, and then it's like, do they understand you? And then you try like it just starts to kind of create more problems almost, and obviously more anxiety if they're really concerned about possibly getting it.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you on that. I'm a hugger. And so I still now have problems, like even with seeing my friends. I'm like, I want to come in and hug, and I'm like, supposed to do that. You know, and with my brides in particular, you know, if especially if we're full planning, I've gotten to know you. You know, I'm a hugger, and I can't do that. I laugh and smile a lot, but you can't see that behind a mask. So funny enough, I'm okay with the Zoom or with the Google Hangout because you still get to have that interaction. You still get to, you know, hear the inflection in my voice. You still get to see my face. I still get to see yours, you know, and we can laugh our way through it or cry or be emotional, whatever it is. It's just that it's, you know, a screen between us. And hopefully, you know, as we even said earlier, that this will change if everyone follows the rules. You know, hopefully in 2021, we wouldn't be having we won't be having this same discussion about masks and social distancing and what does it look like in this state versus that state. And the numbers will have definitely tapered down across the United States and the entire world. You know, hopefully that is what we'll be able to see in 2021.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful. It's so, but you know, at the same time, I think it's important, like what you've done is while we're optimistic and while we're hopeful, it's still recognizing the fact that things are what they are right now, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to still obviously run a business and also really solve a problem that people have, which is kind of the crux of any business. Because if you're not solving a problem, do you really have a business? So
Right.
it's just because one problem isn't really available for you to solve right now, that doesn't mean that your clients don't have other problems that you could potentially solve for them. So I love that you've done that with micro wedding. No,
Yes, thank you.
yes, absolutely. So what are some of the other things like this summer? Do you have big plans? Are you, I mean, one of the things that people are like, they're traveling, they're not traveling, they're going on vacation, they're not. They're like, are you staying at home?
I am pretty much at home. That's just me. I have a bit of anxiety still. So I'm probably on the other side of the spectrum. I see you nodding. So you're like, yeah, you too.
Yeah.
I do have some anxiety because I live so close to the Indiana border that here in Illinois, it's, you know, law. You have to have masks. When you go to across the border to Indiana, you don't have to have masks. And so, you know, it's dealing with other states. My family, I was finally able to see them in Ohio. Their rules are different. They don't have to have masks. So my anxiety level sometimes is up there. So I will just I'll stay indoors, and I'm okay with that. I'm kind of used to it. I've been in here since March,
Yeah,
so
I hear
it's
you.
it's the new normal. But as far as plans, the only plan I have is to take Deja to college. She's going to school in Missouri, and as of right now, they will be taking students.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that'll be in August. So that'll be interesting how I handle that. I probably won't do a live on that one. It'll be too emotional for me. But that's the biggest thing. I've been dorm room shopping. So yeah, it's interesting.
That's like a whole nother thing. Like when my son,
Yes.
when he was like, oh yeah, like all the things that like you, I don't know about you, but like when, like I remember when I went to college, things were very different. It was like there were cinder block walls. I mean,
Hmm.
but there were cinder block walls and there was no air conditioning and you know all these things that like you just kind of like you may do, and it's like now things are like so luxurious. I'm like, even
Yes.
the dorms were not like this. I was like, this is like this is not like this is not college. You should be like, you know, bonding over the fact that you guys are like sweating out your like eyeballs that you can't like study because it's no, like this is not right.
No, it's not like that. I have her. I mean, I'll take photos of it. I mean, the planner has come out in me because I don't really have any events this year. So, me decorating her room is my wedding for this August. And I'm kind of obsessed with all the prettiness of it and making it plush and luxurious. And it's going to probably look better than her room does at home. I don't know. It's just I gotta figure. I'm doing too much. I already know that. I'm
I
definitely
love
doing
it.
too much. But I'm like, hey, what else do I have to do right now? So,
Might
I mean,
as
I am, don't get me wrong, when I say that I'm taking care of clients, I'm responding to emails and things, but as far as like
no, but it's not.
leaving,
Yeah,
it's
it,
my happy place to do that in the midst of also trying to keep this business alive and functioning and preparing for 2021. But we do have a few clients still left this year, so we'll see what ultimately is going to happen with that.
yeah. And so, have you decided or talked with your clients at all about in the event that 2021 is the same as 2020, what those next steps are going to be, or are you waiting to communicate that until like,
I would, me personally, I'm waiting till next year. I think they've been traumatized already. So to go into having a conversation about the unknown, I'd prefer not to do it. Pretty much my clients are calm. They're happy. They're smiling, at least from what they tell me. So I want to keep them on that path. And I believe that, once next year comes, speaking, like early spring, if we're kind of sitting here like we are now, then I would begin to have those types of conversations. And honestly, Megan, I hope to not have it, but if I were to have it, I'd simply do what I did this year. We're just going to
yeah,
move it to 2022. There's nothing else I could say but try to comfort them through that, or definitely say, hey, if you really want to do this, let's just do it now. I got micro wings. We can go ahead and knock it out the box right now. But and that's just being silly. But seriously, I would just go from 2021 date and move it to 2022. It's a no-brainer for me. It's here's another addendum. Let's just change the date.
yeah. Well, and I mean, again, it's especially now. I mean, both of us have been in the industry for like 20 years. So it's like we remember when weddings were like, it literally was that like out of the box, do you want A or B? Like that, those are the only choices you have.
Yeah,
And,
that's it.
everything about weddings it was so like kind of cut and dry, cookie cutter. And now everything is so luxurious and personalized and unique and experiential. And I think it's one of those things that, I mean, yes, I understand, like, obviously, if they want to have a micro wedding first and then celebrate later, but to
Mhm.
not have that celebration at all is something that I think couples today, it's not just about the wedding, like the ceremony. It's also about that celebration that they get to share with everyone. So,
Yes. And I would never tell someone don't do it.
right.
Don't just, because to me it's like I'm saying, well, your love doesn't matter now because we have this virus out here. Like, I would never say that. I welcome their questions. I try to answer them as intelligently as possible with the information that I currently have. And I'm still a proponent of, for my clients, hey, let's have it the way we've been planning.
Yeah.
Let's still do it that way. Now, I have had some clients come to me and say, hey, we're going to have just do something this year, but we're still going to have the same big celebration next year. I
Yep.
welcome that too. What, right now for me, I'm flexible. Whatever they want, I'm willing to help navigate them through that process, because like I said, I can only imagine. I know how I felt when my daughter's senior year was canceled on the latter half. So I was emotional about that. I can't imagine having, well, the wedding, same thing. It's just, I just want to help them get through this as easily, as swiftly as possible without
Yeah.
too many breakdowns.
Well, and if they get e-cards with your blessing, I know that they're good to go. I do.
Yes. Thank you.
I love. Well, thank you so much for coming on and kind of chatting with. I think it's one of those things that a lot of times, everyone's kind of at this point, a lot of people, it's like, okay, they got information, they're kind of doing their own mishmash of what's working for them. But sometimes it's good to still hear like, okay, this is what other people are doing and this is why they're doing it and this is why it's important, because sometimes you can kind of lose that. You can kind of
Yeah.
forget and almost think like, is this necessary? Or
Mhm.
because you're doing it and again, I mean, believe me, it's like everybody understands. I said it at the beginning of the live that like so far it's like $32 billion have been
Yes.
lost in 2020 events. 32
Yes.
billion. That's like it's almost,
Bananas.
yeah, it's like almost half of what a normal wedding season would be. And again, that's like we're talking about what's been lost. We're not even
Mm-hmm.
talking about the fact that like some of them, that other remaining amount is like that's been pushed to 2021. It's not that it was
Right.
lost per se, but it was pushed. So I mean, when you kind of count that all in together, I think it's probably bigger than 32.
I believe that. And I believe, I can't speak for other industries because I'm not a part of it, but I truly have said it and I believe that ours was one of the top three hit the hardest.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And for us to come back, I believe it's going to take some time. It's going to take a while. And I have to be honest with myself, and when I speak with others, I have to be honest about that. It's going to be a different look.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time for what we did in 2019 and earlier than that for it to look like that again, if it can even look like that again. So I would say, like, during this time, dealing with the COVID client, is if you haven't already started to retool and think about your future, the future
Yeah.
of your business, now's the ideal time to do it. Because think of it like this: would you have ever had this much downtime in your business? No. So why not use it?
Yeah.
Be
Exactly.
productive. Why not use it?
I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I can't tell you how many times pros have said, like, oh, I wish I could just like stop the world for, maybe a week and then just like
Mm-hmm.
focus on the website, focus on this, focus on redoing that. You've literally been given that time to like
Yeah,
really hone in on exactly what it is that you need to make your business like that much better. That's what this is. I mean, when you
it
think
is.
about when you started your business, it's like that's all you had. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
have,
Right.
when you start your business, you have no clients. So all you have is time. And what did you do?
Yes.
You pour it into your business, you're getting educated, you're not redoing, you're doing for the first time your website, you're this, you're that, and figuring out all these things. This is the time for you now that the universe is like telling you, like, you got to take
Stop.
this time to use it.
Yeah. And I say to anyone, and I've been talking with a lot of my students, I get it. Some days you just don't want to do something, you're feeling some kind of way, but don't stay there too long. Like,
Yeah.
we've been given this, and I don't want to say it's a blessing, but I say from a business owner's perspective, this is ideal time right now for all those things you wrote in your notebook that you said you wanted to do, or all those little post-its around, or whatever, however you jot down those ideas. Start to implement some of that. Start
Yeah.
working on that book that you wanted to write, or that ebook, or that new service, or like you said, website edits, which most people probably do not like at all. So why don't you dive in, start that newsletter? There's so many different things that you can be doing, creative things that you can be doing. There's a million webinars that are
Yeah.
going on right now. There's some live, you have a live several times a week.
Yeah.
Educate yourself so that when things do open up and we do have that new normal, that you'll be ready, and you won't look back and say, hey, what did I do over these last few months? Like, I want to say that I did this, that, and that, and not look back in complete disbelief, like I just wasted the last, year of my life on watching Hulu and Netflix. So, that's just me. But I have to do something productive, and I'm not a machine. So trust and believe, I'm not doing something productive every day. I'm not. Okay. There is times I'm sitting on the couch watching Hulu and Netflix, but I'm not there long. Okay. I definitely am evolving. I am learning more about what I want to do in this business, in this industry. And I hope others are taking this time, just like you said, to really hone in on what they're trying to do with their businesses so that they can sustain and move forward.
Yeah, no, you're totally, I mean, it's the same thing. Like I was saying, like we've been in this, we've seen the recession of 2001, the
Mm-hmm.
crisis of 2008. We've seen all
Yes.
go down. Like I literally remember all these things, and it's like the sky was literally falling. Like we didn't know
Mm-hmm.
it was. And so the only way that you were able to kind of get past that was to actually, literally, you had to sit down, retool your business, rethink what you were doing and how you were doing it, who you were serving, and how you were going to stay alive. Because literally, I mean, thousands of businesses of all industries after those things, like, just done. And it's happening now. You're going to be part of that. It can happen, but really taking that time to make sure that you're not, I think it's important if you want to stay in the game.
Yeah. And we also have to think about our new clients. Like, don't stop marketing your business just because you're like, well, we're all feeling some kind of way. I shouldn't post pretty pictures. I shouldn't, yes, there's so much going on in the world. And a lot of what's going on is negative. Okay. I will say we are in an industry that is beautiful. We are in an industry of love and celebration. And I think the world could use a lot of that right now. So why not share it? Why not?
That's right. Post pretty pictures and do not plagiarize Desiree's blessings post, but be like Desiree and post really cool captions that are encouraging.
Yes. And I challenge anyone who watches this. If you have clients that you have not reached out to, send them a message. Do something different. Send them an inspirational photo. Just knock them off their feet. Wow them that day. And look, I can guarantee you the response will be well received.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And be on the lookout. One, we still are fully hoping that Desiree is going to be engaged by the end of 2020.
Look, Megan, we need to do one on dating during COVID.
There you go. Okay, yeah. Okay. We'll do that next. And then, but you have to be like I don't want to say the guinea pig, but you have to be the guinea pig. So we're gonna have you. Okay. It's like a reality show. It's like Desiree dating during COVID.
Works with me. I'm gonna have a special mask made for it too.
I love it. So that's number one. And number two, make sure that you are listening to waiting with bated breath for Desiree's new e-cards, because we all need e-cards from Desiree with blessings.
I like that. Thank you for that business idea. I'm going to write that down and get to work on it. You know why? Because I've got time. So.
That's right. That's right. And number three, follow Desiree on her 3 different channels on Instagram. So we have Dejanae Events, we have micro _wedding singular, no S.
Yes.
And then we have Wedology, right?
Wedology _toolkit.
There we go. _toolkit. So Wedology _toolkit. So follow her on those 3 channels. And like I said before, if you guys have questions about reviews or things like that, this woman is the queen of reviews. So DM her and she can hook you up with some information about how to be a little bit better, which I think we could all use.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Megan. I always enjoy seeing your smiling face. I love your lives, and I appreciate you so much for being a leader in this industry. So thank you for having me on once again. Thank you, seriously. And tell your daughter, if I don't talk to you before you go, I'm sure that I will. But if I don't, tell her I'm so excited for her, and congratulations again. Thank you. And I can't wait to see the pictures posted of what her room looks like. Oh, you already know I'll be doing that. I've got a living room full of stuff right now that I have nowhere to put, but I've got 6 more weeks of purchases coming along. So we'll see how it goes. I'll definitely share, but thank you once again, Megan. I appreciate you. Absolutely. Thank you. Have a great night.